There were 13 quarterbacks selected during the 2025 NFL Draft. And on today's episode, we're going to put them under the confidence meter and tell you how confident we are that they can carve out a role and potentially be impact players. This and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an offensive draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. We have rookie confidence meter for the quarterbacks, rookie QB confidence meter. We're going to talk about it, man. It was 13 quarterbacks selected. How confident are we in some of these guys actually becoming impact players, grading the AFC West, and then grading the NFC South 2025 NFL Draft. But before that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Keith, let's start at the top. Cameron Ward, QB1, number 1 overall pick for the Tennessee Titans. Keith, how confident are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that he's going to become the impact player that the Tennessee Titans hope that he should be?
Yeah, it should be, in my opinion, somewhere around a 7 or 8, right? Because he's going to get every opportunity. Now, it's a matter of head coach Cam Ward getting on the same page, right? Doing what he does best. Cam Ward working on the things that he needs to work on as far as quick processing, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, consistently playing in a timing and rhythm scheme. I think, obviously, Cam Ward has all the arm talent in the world. Now it's about head coach Brian Callahan, right? I'm trying to make sure I get that right because you got the dad too. Making sure that they get on the same page just from a timing and rhythm perspective, because that's where Brian comes from, right? Dealing with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is and obviously I have experience watching it. He understands offenses. He's a point guard. He gets the ball out. It's not a matter, he holds on to the football from time to time, but with him, it's getting the ball out early, like even the deep ball, right? It's not that he has the strongest arm. It's just that he gets it out at 10, 15 yards, throws it out there, and then lets his wide receiver get under it. So I have a 7 to 8 as far as confidence meter for Cam Ward.
Yeah, I'm right around there, around the 8 as well. I think they got to continue to build, I think if you're expecting him to pull a CJ Stroud and just lead them to the playoffs, like this team is still like trying to rebuild, truthfully, and get more weapons and everything else. You got to see how the offensive line really pans out. They paid Dan Moore out of Pittsburgh to play the left tackle. I've not been a big fan of him at left tackle, so we're gonna see how that really works out. He has not been the most reliable guy in terms of pass protection, but yeah, I give it an 8 as well, Keith. And it's crazy because the guy he is this entire process. It was Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders as QB1 and QB2, but then we get QB2 is actually Jackson Dart going to the New York Giants. They traded up to get him with pick 25. Keith, how on the scale of 1 to 10, how confident you are? How confident in Jackson Dart are you that he will become the guy for the future and keep Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, employed in the Big Apple?
I'm gonna go 5. I'm 50-50 split on it because not only is it how am I trying to put this? It's not only just Jackson Dart's talent, but it's also situation, right? Because if they get in there with Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston and they don't win the 8-9 games, but they only win 4 or 5, then guess what? He's getting fired, right? Brian Daboll, GM, or at least they should be, right? Like we think they would. They might make it another year. Who knows? But in that case, then you have a whole new head coaching regime coming in, right? And then that's not the guy that they drafted, so that kind of brings in the influx plus a QB class that's that potentially could be extremely talented, and they have to be thinking about an Arch Manning already, following him up after obviously the years with Eli Manning. So I look at that from that perspective, that there is a chance that this thing doesn't go right, and they don't even get a chance. Brian Daboll doesn't even get a chance to fully coach Jackson Dart. But also, I think what's been lost in the shuffle of the Shedeur Sanders conversation is that Jackson Dart is not a perfect QB prospect. Like we
No.
have a large sample size of things that he needs to work on. Point blank period. If he was a perfect QB prospect, he would have battled for QB1. Point blank period. Like just there's no doubt about it, right? Jackson Dart was a guy that people mentioned during the season, but his stock really took off during draft season. So shout out to his agent, shout out to what he was able to do, shout out to the calculated moves they made. But Jackson Dart is not a perfect QB prospect. Point blank period.
No,
So
not at all.
there are still things that he needs to work on to become that.
100%, Keith. I'm with you. I give it a 6, and that's literally only if Brian Daboll is still the head coach.
They're still there, yeah.
Yeah, we know that Brian Daboll will. I think he will Daniel Jones him that year. I think he could throw more touchdowns than Daniel Jones potentially, but because I think he coming out, he was a better thrower of the football, more accurate, through layer passes, better stuff like that. But I do think that they're going to use his legs, try to like really get him going in the run game the way he did with Daniel Jones that year. They knocked off the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, right?
Yep.
Daniel Jones' arm. It was the run game. So with his legs. So I think I give him a 6, but I think this is how New York fans, I'm going to be honest with you. If Arch Manning goes back to school for 2 more years, you're in really good shape because you let this whole thing with Jackson Dart plays out. Even if Brian Daboll gets fired, the new head coach comes in for 2026. Jackson Dart he gets Will Levis year. He gets that one Will Levis with the new staff, and if it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. Keith, I'm gonna jump to Shedeur and him and Dillon Gabriel. What is the confidence meter in either one of those guys that they will become the long-term starting quarterback?
So the crazy part is I have more confidence in Shedeur than what I do the Dillon Gabriel situation. One, the media hype is going to be crazy, right? Like if you think that this thing is over because Shedeur went in the 5th round.
The jersey sales are already ridiculous right now.
Yeah, it's nowhere near over. So don't worry about that. And then also their skill sets are so similar. This is going to come down to who wanted more. And that's what the people telling me that Shedeur, hey, he's just a 5th round quarterback, doesn't make any sense. Because Dillon Gabriel literally has a very similar skill set to what Shedeur does, point blank period. And then we get into the character conversation of, oh, well, his character, the NFL proved they didn't want it. Well, nobody talks about the Johnny Manziel money sign, right? And how that still allowed him to go into the 1st round. Nobody talks about Baker Mayfield getting arrested because, he had a DUI and he still went in the 1st round. Nobody discusses those things when we want to talk about character flaws in 1st round quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders has never been in trouble by the law. You may not like him, you may not like his father, but that has nothing to do with his character overall as a person, right? And so we've seen lesser character people get drafted higher. And so I look at Shedeur Sanders, I think he has a chip on his shoulder. You watched him handle the stuff because I watched like some of his, the YouTube things of him getting drafted, and he had the public embarrassment of being a 1st round guy, all of those people having a 1st round party, and then going day 3. And then he sat there and turned around and said, it's all in God's time. And thank the Lord. I appreciate the opportunity, right? That tells me enough that this guy's going to be ready to rock and roll. I think he's going to hit training camp ready to learn. He's going to hit rookie situations. Obviously, he's a rookie quarterback, right? Yeah. But I think he's going to be ready to rock and roll. So I give him the ability to be a starting quarterback. How dysfunctional the Cleveland Browns are, I give it a 7.5, 8.
Yeah, I give it an 8 as well. I think he's a better player and better quarterback than Dillon Gabriel. I don't believe many teams had Dillon Gabriel on their QB boards over Shedeur Sanders, despite however you may feel about him. And good nugget about the Johnny Manziel stuff. Also, Johnny Manziel also was a guy who didn't study. Don't know how scouts got past that. They got past the scouts that drafted him around 1, but then he gets to the league and his agent's like, yeah, he logged no hours on his iPad. Who knew? You could have saw that at Texas A&M. All you do is play backyard football, man. So I give Shedeur 8. I think, like you said, he's gonna come in with that chip on his shoulder. Keith, 2 more quarterbacks to close this thing out. Tyler Shough, pick 40. Yeah. How confident are you with him with the new Lord and the Saints?
Man, confidence that he's gonna start is a 10. Right, like he should be right there with Cam Ward. Like he's going to start. Point blank period. The Derek Carr saga is taking all type of twists and turns, and this thing is going to end awfully similar to the Michael Thomas situation, right? Like I just feel like it's on par for that. And then the confidence that he will be good. Given Kellen Moore's resume, I'm going to put some stock into Kellen Moore's resume. Yeah. Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, right? I'm gonna put it at a solid 8 also. That I think he should be successful, right? And so,
Yeah.
you average those two out. So I think it's a 10 that he's definitely going to play. He is the franchise quarterback. And I'll give it an 8 that he should be successful. Like if you put it towards Kellen Moore and his ability to develop quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm doing the exact same thing. I put it as a 7.5, 7 to 8. I think he's got the talent, the ability. Kellen Moore knows how to use the legs of a quarterback that has mobility. We've seen it with Jalen Hurts, things of that nature. And when this guy is, the main thing with him is got to get him to talk to him and figure out, brother, why don't you want to deal with pressure? I think it's the injuries that he's dealt with the hits. If you can kind of work that thing out with him, you'll be fine. We're going to table the Jalen Miller one because I want to have a bigger conversation. Just give him more time for us to really talk through that situation with him being the backup in Seattle.
Yep. No, well, let's do that. DP, then let's transition. What we're about to do, we're about to go through the AFC, right? We're going to handle some draft grades through the AFC West coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 back in bonus bets today. One more time, don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Grading the 2025 NFL draft class for the AFC West. Keith, let's start with the team that was in the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs. At pick 31 in the first round, they took Josh Simmons. They traded up with the Eagles. It was a very weird trade. I think they traded like a fifth. I was like, you guys could just both sat still and got the guys you got.
Yeah, like I think the Eagles traded up one, and they're
the Eagles traded up.
Eagles traded up one. Yeah, it was crazy.
I was like, this doesn't make any sense, but nonetheless, do you think Josh Simmons offensive
they got bored, BP. They got bored. They had to do something.
Absolutely. They 100% got bored. I was like, I'm not, this doesn't make sense to me. But Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State. They got Omar Norman Lott, defensive tackle out of Tennessee at pick 63. At pick 66, they got Ashton Jaloti, defensive end from Louisville. At pick 85, they got Noah Williams, cornerback from Cal. Then they got Jalen Royals at pick 133, wide receiver out of Utah State. Jeffrey Bossa at pick 156, linebacker from Oregon. And Brashard Smith, running back from SMU at pick 228. Keith, I gave the Kansas City Chiefs a B+. I think they did a good job, man. I think they did a good job. I would like to see maybe they have a type. The Ashton Jaloti was a little high for me. I do like him. It was just a little high. They have a type though. Those sawed off, shorter arm edge rushers. George Karlaftis, the strong physical guys. Like I get it, but I would love to see a speed rusher off the edge. Love the Omar Norman Lott pick. I think that could be the steal of the draft for them. Putting him alongside Chris Jones, I give him a B+.
Yeah, I mean, I started the Josh Simmons thing, right? And we kept talking about this. Yeah. And how many times did we mock Josh Simmons at the back end of the first round? He will go to the Kansas City Chiefs. They feel comfortable taking him, and he could potentially turn it to the best offensive tackle of this draft. Point blank period. And then, like you said, you start at the beginning, and then I like the end of it, wrapping it up with Brashard Smith, a playmaker that's a running back, that's electric speed, that can, form a wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid will find some things to do with him. I give it an A. I thought they had a good draft throughout.
No, they did a good job. They definitely did a good job to keep themselves in the running as the top team in the AFC. Let's go to their biggest competition in the division. Most people would say Los Angeles Chargers, Keith, at pick 22, first round, Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. Second round, Trey Harris, wide receiver from Ole Miss. They got at 86, they got Jamari Caldwell, the defensive tackle from Oregon. Next pick in 125, Kyle Kennard, defensive end From South Carolina, they got Keandre Lambert-Smith, wide receiver from Auburn. Oronde Gadsden II, move tight end from Syracuse at 165. Then they got R.J. Mickens at 214, the safety out of Clemson. Keith, I ended up giving them an A-. I love what they did, right? I love they got a bunch of guys that I really rock with in terms of the players. Really their first 4 selections: Hampton, Harris, Caldwell, and Kennard. We kept talking about, man, Joey Bosa's in Buffalo. Khalil Mack signed for 1 more year. They got Tuli Pelotu, like a guy that we liked a couple years ago. But they need another young edge, and getting Kyle Kennard gives them that guy that doesn't have to come in right away and start every single game. You can use him as a DPR right now and bring him off the bench with fresh legs in the fourth quarter and on those third downs. I love that. Getting Trey Harris, Jamari Caldwell, a powerful, strong, but also quick, and got some elusivity in this game as a run defender to beat gaps and everything like that. They needed to improve the defensive tackle situation. And then getting R.J. Mickens that late, a guy that's a talented player and an instinctive player at the safety position, I give him an A-.
Yeah, I look at this, DP, and I give them, we probably flip-flop, right, with the Kansas City Chiefs into the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to give it a B. I thought it was a good draft. Like you said, Omarion Hampton, I said this and I'm going to say this again. He's going to be in the running for Rookie of the Year because he's going to get the touches. And you know how I feel about Kyle Kennard. I'd have took this guy in the second round. Former SEC Defensive Player of the Year that nobody talks about, right? It might be the defense, I think. Or was he the defensive player of the year, period, right?
I think he might have been the defensive player.
Yeah, I think he was just the defensive player of the year, period, and then wrapping it up with R.J. Mickens. So I like that situation also, DP. I give it a B. They had a good draft.
Yeah, they did. They did a good job. Going up to the Denver Broncos, they took Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas in round 1. They went R.J. Harvey, running back out of UCF, and it looks like at pick 60. At pick 74, they took Pat Bryant, wide receiver out of Illinois. At pick 101, Savion Jones, defensive end from LSU. Pick 134, I think it's Q Robinson, defensive end from Alabama. They went a punter at 216, and then they went a basketball forward who's converting to tight end, Caleb Lohner from Texas Tech, I believe, at 241. Keith, outside of, to be completely honest, I like Jahdae Barron pick. I like Savion, and I like the Q Robinson pick. Pick 16 and 74, I can't get on board with. I gave them a C. I felt like they were, like, to me, like the tight end spot, like Caleb could end up being the next Antonio Gates for all we know. You know what I mean? The basketball player, power forward that converts to tight end. And those guys typically do translate pretty well. But there were actual tight ends who played tight end a lot of years that were still available throughout this draft, that if they didn't reach for RJ Harvey or didn't reach for Pat Bryant, they could have got them another playmaker type, a guy that can step in right away. Yeah, man, I don't know. I'll give him a C.
Well, DP, I'm going to give them a C too. And the crazy part is the picks you like, I have concerns. The pick I made, like, you have concerns. And I think that's a problem in itself, to be completely honest, because a lot of the picks can go 50-50, right? It can work, it cannot work. And I think that's why we're sitting at a C. Obviously, we know RJ Harvey is one of my favorite running backs, but did I think that he was going to go that high? I didn't. Pat Bryant, I don't know if I'd have took him that high in the third round. Savion Jones, good football player, but will he be your ace pass rusher? And then Q Robinson, Jeremy Crenshaw, Caleb Lohner, like you said, that's all swing for the fences picks, right? And so I see, I'm right there with you. See,
yeah, they're really banking on development with that situation. You know what I mean? I will say I love the Jahdae Barron pick because now Jahdae Barron more likely plays nickel because you got Pat Surtain, defensive player of the year. You got Riley Moss, the other outside corner who had a good season, right? He could more than likely play that nickel spot. And like, yeah, you got yourself a really good trio of corners just right there, you know what I mean, in those nickel and even dime personnel packages. So yeah, I give them that C. Wish I wanted to like their class more, but I was just like, yeah, I can't do it. The Raiders, Keith, their first pick, Ashton Genty. They went to wide receiver at 58, Jack Besh out of TCU. Darian Porter at 68, cornerback from Iowa State. They got Caleb Rogers, offensive lineman from Texas Tech. They at 98, and then they doubled down on O-line with Charles Grant, offensive tackle at 99. They got one of my guys, Dante Thornton Jr. at 108, wide receiver out of Tennessee, the freak athlete that he is, Tonka Hemingway at 135, defensive tackle from South Carolina. They went back to the well at 180 with J.J. Pegues, the 330-pound defensive tackle from Ole Miss. They selected a quarterback who's they're saying is going to play wide receiver, Tommy Malott, at 213. Then they went actual quarterback, Cam Miller, at 215, and Cody Lindenberg. I give them overall, Keith, I really like what they did. It was at that stretch from 6 only to 180. I give them actually A-. I actually love their draft. Like they doubled down at wide receiver. We know that was a big hole on their roster. And you think about having a 6'5", 4'3" athlete, and then a guy like Jack Best who can play that movement Z power slot role with Brock Bowers, with Ashton Genty, Geno Smith at quarterback, and then getting the versatility with 90 picks, 98 and 99 on the O-line. And then I love the Darian Porter pick too, like the upside of what he brings. I give them an A-, man.
Yeah, I would, and I think it's kind of split because we kind of differ on Darian Porter, right? And I think that's a huge swing situation. But I do like him with the Raiders because you would assume that he's going to play some type of cover 3 situation to where he should be able to fit into that. Yeah. And then you look at Ashton Genty going with their first round pick. I like that. I'm interested to see how that unfolds. And then I like the fact that they doubled down on offensive linemen, right? Because you got to get guys within the combination of Kayla Rogers and Charles Grant. I think they could potentially have 2 starters in that situation. So I look at it. I like it. I don't love it. I'm C plus B minus. I think it's a solid draft. I thought there'd be a little bit more flash, right? With obviously, you're talking about Pete Carroll, John Spytek, the GM, Tom Brady, but I think it's a solid draft. It may be a building block foundational situation, DP, but that wraps up the AFC West. You know where we're going? We kind of in this area of the country, right? The NFC South, right? You got Carolina, you got Saints, you got Tampa Bay Bucks. We're gonna talk about those teams coming up next.
Ever look at your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much money I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It's as simple as that. Again, that's monarchmoney.com. And you use the code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. We're going to grade the NFC South's 2025 NFL Draft, starting with the team that won the division, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Keith, at the first round, they selected Mecca Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. In the second round, at pick 53, Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of Notre Dame. At pick 84, they doubled down, got themselves an explosive nickel corner, Jacob Parrish, cornerback out of Kansas State. Pick 121, David Walker, the undersized edge rusher that knows how to get into the backfield. Then they doubled down another edge rusher, Elijah Roberts, out of SMU at 157. And then they went and got Tez Johnson, the kind of star, explosive wide receiver from Oregon. Keith, for me, for the Bucks, I gave them a B. I actually like the move. I love I think they're planning ahead with the Emeka Egbuka thing. Mike Evans is on the 1 year. His contract's got 1 year left. Chris Godwin's coming back off the injury. They have Jalen McMillan and everything, but they need it just in case, because both of those guys are older, Godwin and Mike Evans. Just in case you got to deal with some injuries with them still in 2025. Then you have Emeka and Jalen McMillan. Emeka could play the Z. McMillan could play that Z or that slot role. I gave him a B.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I give him exactly a B2, and I like the combination from Emeka to Benjamin Morrison to Jacob Harris, right? The top of that draft. I think it's pretty solid, and they all upside guys, right? Like the guys that people kind of overlook, but are talented players that have a lot of experience playing a lot of football. So I like what they did. Take a swing, and I think it was a B.
Yeah, I'll go with that for sure. That thing, I think the Benjamin Morrison pick might be the steal. He's fully
Yep.
healthy. Like that could be the steal of the draft. Keith, let's go to the ATL, right? With those dirty birds, those Atlanta Falcons, Keith. And they got listen. Feels like Terry Fontenot's been listening to the podcast, Keith. I think Terry Fontenot's been listening to the podcast. At pick 15, they got gifted with Jalon Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia. Then they traded back up with the Los Angeles Rams into round 1 at pick 26, selecting James Pierce Jr., edge out of Tennessee. They went at pick 96 in the 3rd round. They selected Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. Then at pick 118, they doubled down at safety, that safety nickel spot with Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma. And then they went with an offensive lineman at 218, Jack Nelson. Keith, I give them an A-. This would have been an A+ if they didn't have to give up a 1st-round pick. But at the same time, this is a team that feel comfortable with what they have at quarterback. And they got their number 1 wide receiver. They got number 1 running back. We'll see what happens with Kyle Pitts. But I love the aggressiveness. And I say this is all Bryce Young's fault because Bryce Young lit them up week 17. And they said never again. They was like, never again. We couldn't get to him. We couldn't get to any quarterback. They were dead last in sacks. And as we know, the last 20 years of data, they've been around the worst team getting to the quarterback in the last 20 years, 2 decades. They said, let's double up and go get it. I love getting both of those guys, Walker and Pierce, but getting Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts to pair with Jesse Bates. And I think Billy Bowman's going to play that nickel role for them. I love it. I love what they've done. A- to me, man.
Yeah, DP. I believe that Terry Fontenot said, "Are you not entertained?" Right. That I think that was his.
I got
his
a feeling
thought.
he wrote my name down in their draft room because I wrote my name down in their draft room.
Oh, I give him an A, DP. They needed edge rush help. First of all, they brought in a culture setter in Jalon Walker. And then they brought in a high upside guy, James Pierce. You need to fix the back end. They brought in Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman, which are 2 complementary pieces, and they go get your offensive lineman. They didn't have a lot of draft picks, but with those draft picks, I think that they were very strategic and executed at a high level. And this might be the start of the Atlanta Falcons having a good defense finally.
Yeah. I mean, bro, if you can get after the quarterback with these, they took 2 bites at the apple. Keep it. Both of these guys hit. Like your pass rush is set for the next 5 to 7 years. Somebody's gonna get paid. Somebody might get traded, but nonetheless, you got capital either way. Let's go to the Carolina Panthers. Keith, they took Teroa McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona, with the 8th overall pick. They came down into the 2nd round on day 2 and got Nick Scourton, edge from Texas A&M. Doubled down the edge with Princely, McMillan, edge rusher from Ole Miss, and pick 114. They took Trevor Etienne, running back from Georgia. Pick 122, Lathan Ransom, safety from Ohio State. Pick 140, Cam Jackson, defensive tackle from Florida. And then at pick 163, Mitchell Evans, tight end from Notre Dame. And at pick 208, they got their special teams ace, Jimmy Horn Jr., to be there. That punt return, kick return, a guy that can flip the field as well as work in eventually into the wide receiver rotation. Keith, I ended up giving the Carolina Panthers, I gave them a B+. I like what they've done. I getting that wide receiver. But then because the worry was, okay, well, who's going to be there for edge? Them getting Nick Scourton and Princely. I feel more confident in the abilities of what the Falcons got at edge with JPJ and Jalon Walker. I think Scourton and Princely have upside, and these are the type of guys they needed. They needed to go ahead and double down the edge, getting the pass catching back out of the backfield with ETN. I like the Cam Jackson pick because it just lets me know that they are doubling down on stopping the run with him, Derek Brown, I think Tershawn Wharton and Big Bobby Brown that they got from the Rams. Man, I give them a B+. They did a good job.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The same exact grade, B+. I actually like the combination of Nick Scourton and Princely McMillan. I think Scourton kind of went under the radar as one of the more naturally skilled and gifted pass rushers. And I'm trying to think of what's your guy from Oregon that they drafted a couple of years ago.
Was it DJ Williams or
DJ?
who's
Yeah.
it?
Yep. And I think they thought that he was going to be that guy, but
DJ
we watched
Johnson.
him.
I'm sorry, DJ Johnson. Yeah, that's
DJ Johnson. And I think that Nick Scourton is who they thought DJ Johnson was going to be, right? A guy that could get you somewhere between 7 and 10 sacks a year. The Lathan Ransom pick, I thought he was one. I thought he had a great last year, right? This past year, and I think he's going to be a starting safety for them. And then Cam Jackson, like you said, to fill it up, the run game, and then to wrap it up with Jimmy Horn Jr. We talked about time and time again how Bryce Young needs a vertical field stretcher. So they got him a vertical field stretcher, playmaker, and Jimmy Horn Jr. Then they got him another big body wide receiver in Teodoro McMillan to pair with Xavier Legette. I think this thing is finally rounding out to be a solid wide receiver core.
Yeah, I think, being able to, they create competition in that room. A lot of young guys between Tet, Jimmy, Xavier, Jalen Coker. That's 4 guys under the age of 26. I think Coker might have been Coker and Legette, I think were both a little bit older prospects when they came out. But still, young guys that were drafted within the last 2 to 3 drafts, like young guys that can absolutely. Now it's like, okay, I think, if you feel the Panther fans that were really high on Jalen Coker, his spot might be a little bit murky with the addition to Tet. I think they really, from everything I've heard, they are super high on Xavier and him being healthy this year. And you know what Jimmy Horn can do. I think he's going to help them a lot on special teams. Flip the field whenever your defense does a good job of getting the stop. They punt that ball to him. This dude's electric. He can make plays. I think he's going to help flip be a guy that probably averages 10 to 12 yards per punt return if they make him the full-time returner. And then you can give him the gadget stuff, the slot stuff, the explosive stuff on the offensive side of the ball. So Panthers are building. I think, and Keith, I love what they did simply from the fact of, like, you absolve yourself for whatever happens this year. Like, if Bryce doesn't work out, you can't say we didn't get you weapons. That was the problem the first year. Like, you absolutely screwed that up his rookie year. But now what you've done the last 2 drafts, like, you give them some weapons, and now it's just like, all right, Bryce, go ahead and do your thing, go ball. And if he does that, now you've hit on your first overall pick.
Yep, with DP, let's keep doing this, man. We got the New Orleans Saints coming up next. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints.
Man, the New Orleans Saints, Keith, I'm gonna tell you right now, my grade for them is a C+. Kelvin Banks at 9. They got Tyler Shough at 40. That's where it kind of went off the rails for me. Vernon Broughton at 71. Jonas Sanker, safety out of Virginia. I like him. Danny Stutzman, linebacker from Oklahoma at 112. Got our guy Quincy Riley at 131. Devin Neal, another guy we like, the running back out of Kansas at 184. They got Moliki Matavo, I think it's how you say it, tight end from UCLA, and Fadil Diggs, edge rusher at 254. The Tyler Shough pick, he was just the one at 40, it was a reach, but I give him a C+ overall. I like multiple pick. I like Tyler Shough too. Like, they got guys I like. It just was, man, at 40, that's kind of tough for me. But like we talked about it earlier, I'm gonna trust Kellen Moore. That, from what I was told, that was absolutely a Kellen Moore pick. That was what he kind of called for.
Yeah, I look at this DP and I say their best picks, you're talking about like appropriate and round value type picks, was Quincy Riley and Devin Neal, to be honest, for me. Their 4th round and 6th round pick. Everybody else, I'll be completely honest, I think they kind of overdrafted DP. I think like when I look at it, I see reach. And that's what it's felt like for the past few years with the New Orleans Saints. And it's partially why they're in the position that they're in, right? So we'll see how that builds out. But I give it a C+ also. I think it's an okay draft, not a great draft. I just think that they reach for some guys when they probably could have moved up and down the board a little bit more to get more value, pick up more picks, because I just didn't have the value slotted for where they took some of these guys. But DP, that wraps it up. That's another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we're getting into more of the grades in the NFC, but also we're going to talk about, Shedeur Sanders, Quinn Ewers, both day 3 picks. We're going to make the case of why their careers are not over. That and more coming on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.